For decades, humanity has scoured the heavens, searching not only for planets and faint radio whispers, but for anomalies, those rare, impossible moments when the universe itself breaks its own rules. And now, the James Webb Space Telescope may have uncovered exactly that. What began as a routine observation of the third interstellar object ever recorded within our solar system, an object known as 3I Atlas, has twisted into something stranger, darker, and infinitely more profound. Because somewhere in the cold, silent gulf beyond Mars, Webb captured a signal it should never have seen. Not a natural glimmer, not the reflected glow of ice or rock, but artificial light. A pulsing signature that obeys no cometary physics, no asteroid behavior, no law of reflection or refraction that we understand. Astronomers and astrophysicists now stand frozen before a single, terrifying question. What is 3I Atlas really? The discovery has reignited humanity's oldest and most haunting mystery. Are we truly alone in this vast abyss? The object was first spotted as nothing more than a dim fleck of light, crawling across the edge of the solar system. Yet its trajectory betrayed its origin. It was interstellar, born beyond the sun's pull, hurled across unimaginable distances by some unknown force, now drifting into our cosmic neighborhood like a messenger from elsewhere. At first, scientists dismissed it as little more than a curiosity, another wanderer like Oumuamua and Borisov. But even in its earliest images, there was a shadow of unease, a sense that something about 3I Atlas did not belong, something waiting to be revealed. Unlike most interstellar visitors, 3I Atlas burned too brightly, far too brightly, and in a way that defied reason. Its luminosity did not match its estimated size, mass, or icy composition. Instead, it shimmered with a strange, unwavering glow. Its brightness never dimmed as it should have, never flared with the chaotic bursts of outgassing or dust that betray a comet's fragile nature. Normal comets awaken in fits and starts, erupting as sunlight frees their frozen hearts. But this one remained calm, constant, and unsettlingly steady, as if illuminated from within. Soon, telescopes across the planet turned toward it, each capturing the same unearthly consistency. And then came the James Webb Space Telescope, humanity's most powerful eye, drifting 1,000,000 miles away at the silent Lagrange point. Its mission was clear: cut through the shadows, peer beyond the veil, and solve the riddle of 3I Atlas. But instead of answers, Webb delivered a revelation that changed everything. Its infrared gaze revealed not sunlight bouncing from frozen dust, but heat radiating outward, as though the object's very core was alive with fire. This was not reflected brilliance. It was emitted light. The telescope's thermal mapping exposed a concentrated glow that followed no natural distribution curve. No comet, no asteroid, no fragment of space rock had ever behaved this way. And then came the pulse, subtle, uneven, yet undeniable, a flicker of rhythm, a beat that cycled faintly through the darkness. Randomness had no place here. This was pattern. This was intent. Scientists scrambled to explain the impossible: radioactive decay, exotic isotopes, hidden volcanic fractures. But as the data deepened, every natural explanation collapsed under the weight of the evidence. The only explanation that remained, the one scientists dreaded even whispering, was also the one that made the most sense. This object might not be natural at all. It might be powered. As data streamed in from Webb, Hubble, and Earth's observatories, a profile of 3I Atlas began to take shape, and it looked nothing like anything we had ever cataloged in the skies. Its path was too deliberate, too exact, as though it were choosing where to go, nudging itself with subtle course corrections through gravity wells. Its spin was unnervingly perfect, a rotation that resisted the random tumbling every other drifting body endures. And even when it drew close to the unforgiving radiation of the sun, it refused to grow a comet's tail. Instead, it behaved as though shielded, wrapped in some kind of casing, protecting it from the heat. Then came the most shattering revelation. Measurements of its albedo, its reflectivity, showed surfaces gleaming with near perfection, parts so bright they rivaled polished metal. Not rock, not dust, not ice, but something engineered, something forged. The implications thundered through the astronomical world. If 3I Atlas was metallic, structured, and radiating power, then it was no longer a natural object. It was technology. Whispers spread in quiet corridors. The word probe surfaced. Beacon? Artifact. The idea of an alien craft was no longer the fantasy of conspiracy theorists. It had crept into encrypted institutional emails, into late-night calls between agencies, into private debates no one dared admit publicly. And yet, perhaps the most damning evidence was not its light, its trajectory, or its metallic gleam. It was the light itself that shattered the last illusions. Photometric analysis revealed something truly chilling. 3I Atlas wasn't simply reflecting sunlight across a broad spectrum like every other wandering rock. Its glow was confined to a razor-thin band of wavelengths. This was not nature's scatter. This was control. The same precision humanity uses in LED arrays, laser communication systems, and spacecraft beacons. Even more unsettling, the chosen band overlapped frequencies routinely used here on Earth for communication and guidance. And as if that wasn't enough, its intensity shifted ever so slightly with solar radiation, like an onboard system adjusting its output in real time. It flickered, but not randomly. It pulsed with an intermittent rhythm, as if it were breathing. Astronomers ran the numbers through every signal model they had. The results were inconclusive, but far from meaningless. Some saw the ghost of binary sequences hidden in the pulse. Others argued it might be a rotating power source or a system maintaining balance. But the conclusion no one could escape was this: 3I Atlas was not passive. It was doing something deliberate, and we were watching it happen live. In response, a joint MIT and Harvard team dove into the electromagnetic emissions pouring from the object. At first, the data looked like cosmic noise, meaningless static scattered across the spectrum. But then, using deep Fourier transforms to peel away the chaos, a pattern began to emerge. Buried within the hiss of the void was a structured, repeating pulse, too precise to belong to nature. It wasn't standard binary. It wasn't any modulation known to human technology. Yet it bore the unmistakable fingerprint of intentional encoding. Some dared to whisper the unthinkable. This could be a beacon, a broadcast meant not for us, but for someone, or something else. Others suggested the pulses weren't a beacon at all, but telemetry, a steady stream of data being fed back across the stars to wherever this object truly belonged. And the most unsettling detail, the signal never changed. From the first moment Webb caught it, the message has remained the same, unwavering. It wasn't speaking to us, it was speaking to someone else. And maybe that someone had already heard. Word of this discovery raced through the highest levels of both science and defense. A confidential report, marked eyes only, slipped through NASA's inner channels and leaked into the hands of an unnamed journalist. The document revealed what officials would not admit publicly. Space agencies worldwide were already coordinating in secret, trying to answer one impossible question. Was 3I Atlas a threat? Some scientists argued for calm, suggesting it could be ancient, a relic probe centuries old, endlessly drifting along a pre-programmed path. But others saw danger in its silence. If it was transmitting, then who was listening? If it emitted light with such precision, did it also command propulsion? And if it was here by design, why now, at this exact moment in human history? The leaked report hinted at even darker possibilities, that 3I Atlas wasn't merely passing through, but watching, surveying planetary alignments, electromagnetic fields, perhaps even advanced civilizations themselves. The idea triggered panic behind closed doors, because if it was an observer, then something else might be the sender, and that something could already be on its way. Further studies of its strange luminosity deepened the mystery. Astronomers realized the object wasn't only radiating energy, it was collecting it. Its light output rose and fell with proximity to the sun, showing no signs of chemical reactions, no cometary shedding. Instead, it behaved like a machine equipped with a solar array, a photonic absorption system woven beneath its skin. Loeb and his team of theorists proposed a daring possibility. The strange dust cloud surrounding 3I Atlas wasn't just debris, but design. It could be a dual-function system, camouflage to conceal an artificial frame, and, at the same time, a medium for absorbing solar radiation. If true, this would make 3I Atlas not a comet, not an asteroid, but a self-sustaining craft, refueling itself as it drifts from star to star, sleeping for centuries, awakening only when its sensors find something worth investigating. And if our solar system has triggered that awakening, then the message has already been sent. Across the world, space agencies scrambled behind closed doors, each trying to decode the same frightening truth. Despite decades of speculation about extraterrestrial contact, humanity's systems, political, scientific, philosophical, are painfully unprepared for what 3I Atlas might represent. There were no public statements, only leaks, internal memos from France, Japan, Brazil, all quietly pointing to the same unthinkable conclusion. This might not be an anomaly. This might be first contact, unfolding not in a flash of spectacle, but in slow motion. Unlike Hollywood's visions, there was no ship dropping through the clouds, no landing on the White House lawn, no booming voice from the sky. There was only data, Only light, only silence. Webb continues to stare at the object every day, but each new reading spawns two new mysteries. If this is contact, then it is contact on their terms. Quiet, patient, unsettling. And that may be the most terrifying thing of all, because what we're witnessing might not be an invitation. It could be surveillance. And if so, we may have already been seen. Just as astronomers began to think 3I Atlas had settled into a predictable path, something happened that no one expected. Then, without warning, its light exploded. The luminosity of 3I Atlas spiked so suddenly that the James Webb Telescope captured it in real time, its data streams flooding with disbelief. Ground-based observatories confirmed it seconds later. The object's brightness had surged by nearly 40% in under 2 minutes, then held steady at this new, elevated state. This was no gentle warming from solar approach, no flare from solar wind, no impact, no disintegration. It was as if a hidden switch had been thrown. And the flare wasn't just visual, it carried a new thermal signature. The object now radiated with a distinct fingerprint of powered systems coming online. Theorists whispered a chilling possibility. 3I Atlas had entered an awakened phase, triggered either by its nearness to the sun or by the fact that we were watching. And if the flare was deliberate, then it was not just a change, it was a signal. Shortly after, orbital data revealed something even more disturbing. The object was no longer on its predicted course. It had shifted, slightly but measurably. Gravity could not account for the change. Solar radiation pressure couldn't explain it either. This was not drift. This was intent. Its new trajectory bent inward, deeper into the solar system, tilting closer toward the plane of Earth's orbit. It was no longer just a passerby. It had, in essence, changed lanes. Some scientists, cautious and restrained, labeled it an anomaly, but others recognized the truth written plainly in the numbers. This was a maneuver, a course correction. No rock, no comet, no drifting fragment had ever made. And if 3I Atlas possessed even limited propulsion or navigation, then we were not watching a relic of the past. We were no longer witnessing a drifting rock. We were watching a vessel, moving with intent. As 3I Atlas passed within the reach of Webb's and Hubble's spectroscopic instruments, the data sharpened into revelations that shook every discipline of science. Its spectral signature contained traces of alloys so reflective they rivaled polished mirrors, rare earth elements seldom found in nature, and, most astonishing of all, absorption lines belonging to compounds that did not exist in our periodic table. These were not the fingerprints of a comet. They were the hallmarks of engineering, of synthesis under conditions alien to Earth. One spectral profile bore a chilling resemblance to materials proposed only in theoretical quantum labs, substances that could exist solely under extreme magnetic fields or through deliberate quantum confinement. The implications were staggering. Either this object was impossibly ancient, a construct predating human civilization by millennia, or it was a recent creation forged by a civilization far beyond our own. And in truth, the material itself shouted louder than any encoded signal. Because even if we never deciphered its message, the messenger was already proof of the unnatural. Governments and space agencies reacted with sudden, silent urgency. Observatory networks tightened their encryption. Research teams were reassigned overnight. Satellites across multiple continents quietly underwent unexplained recalibrations. Behind closed doors, contingency discussions flared among every nation capable of reaching orbit. And then came the leak. A classified document from an international defense consortium suggested the unthinkable. 3I Atlas might not be a solitary wanderer at all. Its stable rotation, strange casing, and ability to operate across interstellar distances did not fit the profile of a relic. They matched something else entirely. But if 3I Atlas was truly a scout, what was it searching for? And more chilling still, what might be coming next? Across universities, observatories, and military command centers, a single terrifying consensus began to crystallize. This was no longer a question of, are we alone? The first contact may not arrive as a greeting. It might arrive as an evaluation. As speculation boiled over, a small defiant team at the SETI Institute decided to act where no one else would. They transmitted a tightly focused radio pulse aimed directly at the projected coordinates of 3I Atlas. Inside the signal, they packed universal mathematical constants, the periodic table, and simple visual diagrams of humanity. A cautious cosmic handshake, a whispered hello into the void. Days passed, then a week. Silence. The experiment teetered on the edge of being archived as another unanswered plea to the stars. Then, in the still hours before dawn, a monitoring station in Chile caught something extraordinary. A narrow band return pulse, off frequency, distorted, but unmistakably timed to mirror the original transmission. It wasn't a reply in words. It wasn't a simple echo. It was a ping, a return signal carrying just enough variance to prove it was not passive reflection. It had been received, it had been processed, and it had been sent back. But what shook the SETI team to their core wasn't the signal itself. It was the timing. The response came exactly 72 hours after transmission, to the second. That meant something out there had not only heard us, but calculated the delay and answered deliberately. Moments after the ping was detected, a new wave of anomalies swept across the globe. Webb's infrared instruments began to display erratic thermal maps for the first time since launch. Ground observatories reported unexplained interference. It was as if the act of calling out had shifted the attention, not just of the object, but of whatever might be listening behind it. Hubble's gyroscopic sensors began recording microfluctuations, despite maintaining a perfectly stable orientation. Ground-based telescopes reported what were first brushed off as software bugs: misaligned star charts, inexplicable pixel distortions, frozen data streams. Yet these glitches appeared only when instruments were locked onto 3I Atlas. And they weren't random. They occurred in synchronized bursts as though coordinated, like someone or something didn't want us looking too closely. Inside a Black Ops think tank buried deep within the European Space Agency, a new theory emerged. The object wasn't just broadcasting signals, it was jamming us, selectively interfering with what we could see. The implications were staggering. A passive visitor doesn't hide itself. A scout does. If 3I Atlas was actively controlling what reached our eyes and instruments, then we weren't observing it. We were being permitted to observe it, and then came the silence. Within days of the signal event and the cascading malfunctions, Webb's updates were delayed, restricted, and quietly rerouted. Public logs disappeared. The European Space Agency issued only a vague line about instrument recalibration. NASA stopped commenting altogether. Even reputable journals, once breathless with coverage, began retracting stories or publishing sterilized summaries stripped of detail. The astrophysics community split down the middle. Some clung to the hope that agencies were simply verifying the data before going public. Others believed something far darker, that the truth had already been confirmed and was now being contained. Independent observatories tried releasing raw streams to the public, but these were quickly drowned in a digital storm of misinformation and speculation. What had once been a global scientific mystery was now a strategic asset, and history shows what happens when governments classify discovery. Truth dies in silence. In a last desperate attempt to understand what they were really seeing, a coalition of astronomers and mathematicians abandoned traditional analysis. They weren't searching for communication anymore. They were searching for intent. That's when they uncovered the most chilling pattern yet. Plotted against planetary positions, 3I Atlas's path, while seemingly natural, mirrored a Fibonacci arc, a spiral etched not by chance, but by design. An ancient spiral of proportional beauty, seen in galaxies, shells, hurricanes, even the structure of DNA, now traced in the path of 3I Atlas. A pattern woven into nature itself, and coincidentally into many of Earth's own communication protocols. And yet, this spiral was not alone. The timing of its course corrections, the sudden light flares, even the echoing ping all aligned with prime number sequences. The odds of this occurring by chance were not merely low, they were essentially zero. These were choices, patterns chosen, which meant that 3I Atlas was not merely flying through the solar system. It was navigating it, mapping it with mathematical precision, as though following a hidden schedule. A few theorists dared whisper the unthinkable. Perhaps this wasn't an interstellar probe at all. Perhaps it was an interstellar message, not written in sound or symbols, but in behavior. And without realizing it, we may have just decoded the first word. As the dust of confusion settles, one truth stands immovable. 3I Atlas was never just a rock. From the unnatural light it emitted to the encoded pulse it returned. From the rare, impossible materials in its skin to the calculated shifts in its trajectory, every clue leads to one conclusion, too uncomfortable to speak aloud. We have not been alone for a very long time, and perhaps we were never meant to know. The James Webb Telescope, built to glimpse the birth of galaxies, may instead have caught a glimpse of something ancient and deliberate, something designed to look back, not from the safety of a distant star system, but from the threshold of our own cosmic neighborhood. And still, silence reigns. Agencies refuse to speak. Data is withheld. The world, it seems, has been deemed not ready. But we saw the light. We tracked the path. And now we face the question that terrifies even the most rational minds. What happens next? Was 3I Atlas merely passing through, cataloging our world before vanishing into the dark? Or was it only the first of many, a probe leading the way for something greater, something waiting for a signal to move forward? In the end, it may not matter whether 3i Atlas was machine, message, or something beyond either. What matters is that it came, it saw, and it responded. And now, somewhere in the cold, endless dark, something may be turning its attention toward the blue planet that blinked first. The countdown, perhaps, has already begun, and the universe once again reminds us, we are not the center. We are the observed. If you found this video as chilling and fascinating as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment below. And we'll see you in the next one.